Okay, so we are, as we move on with our prayer night, today is, we're gonna go back and we are actually in our stewardship series. Of course, yearly we do our stewardship series, right? For us to be reminded of that we are not just, we are not owners of the things that we have, the possessions that we have, but for us to be reminded that the possessions, the wealth, the possessions that we have truly came from the Lord, right? So and with that we have stewardship series, and of course we are doing our kingdom wealth, and first week one is kingdom treasure, about where your treasure is, right? So and the kingdom heart, right? And then second week's about the kingdom perspective, it's about the eye, and last week it's about kingdom loyalty. I mean last Sunday it's about the kingdom loyalty, like serving and the master. Who's your master? Is it money or is it God, right? So that everything, so you have to weigh it, right? So and what a blessing it is, Hannah, for our Victory SoCal family, that Pastor Ariel Marquez was able to visit us, right? And preach about
in both congregations.
Exactly. He did the whole shebang, I would say.
He did a Pastor Robert.
He did a Pastor Robert.
The Pastor Robert experience.
The ultimate, right? So when preach in San Diego, drive up, but I heard that they, thankfully, they didn't encounter any traffic going up to Pasadena, right?
Great.
So, but still, the drive is still there.
Yes.
And then they had to come back. And I believe, I'm not sure, tonight is, I'm not sure, but today was his flight back
to the Philippines.
Yeah, I think so.
So it was a short trip.
Yeah,
We're so grateful that he was able to share so many nuggets of wisdom.
For sure.
During our service. I mean, two services.
Two services. And it's really encouraging for him to encourage our people as well, right? So, and also, so based on that, I know that just like like what you mentioned, so many nuggets of wisdoms, like every message, every word that he would say is like, it's like a main point of everything, right? So
many quotable quotes.
Yes, exactly, right? So I remember Solomon, Seth, who was listening, or my son's like saying, so what is one, I asked him, what is your takeaway? Oh, I remember, he said he was a CPA. And why that? And he said, oh, chicken pork adobo.
that's what he remembered.
Yeah, because he likes chicken and pork adobo. But
who doesn't?
Yeah, but for sure. But how about you guys? As we continue with this, what's your takeaway from last Sunday's message? And Hannah, how about you?
Feel free to, before I answer that, feel free to type it in the comments, and we would love to hear from you what your takeaway was, anything that really resonated throughout the whole sermon. For me, there's so many things, but maybe if I'm only to point one, so he said, he mentioned the verse, the where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And that's not a new verse for me, but when he mentioned that it's not really your treasure that goes after the heart, but it's your heart that goes after the treasure, really puts things into perspective for me. It's like, oh, that's what he meant when he said your heart, about what we value, right? And so for me, it was like a heart check again, reminding me to pursue things that are not of this world. It's hard. it's hard.
But, that's true.
That was really a great sermon.
Yes. And actually, as we go back, it's actually one text from last Sunday, but there are some messages that if we could look at Matthew 6:24, he mentioned that, right? So it says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other, right? So you cannot serve both God and money. That's I remember he was mentioning about 3 words. Remember that: master, devoted, and serve, right? And also what struck me also is like the kinds of values, like the cost, the value, right? Being a marketing person, or being that he was in the in that field, like market value and the economic value and the book value, and the actual value written, the intrinsic value or the sentimental value. And no matter how expensive it is, right, you don't want to let go because it has some sentiment to it. But the thing that we need to focus on is the eternal value, right? So that's why store treasures, like, but I think that's what struck me also. It's like store treasures in heaven, like heavenly treasures, right? So, and as we move on with that, last Sunday we discussed about being devoted to, right? And being devoted to and being loyal to God as our master. So that means we need to, and of course from that point, it says there that his main point, Pastor Ariel's main point, said true devotion to God leads to a secure life both here as for the now and through eternity. So that is true devotion. So true devotion means undivided attention. So if you are serving God as your master, you are focused. There's no other master that you are serving, right? So the question, so serve God and not money. So serving here means not to be enslaved to, right? So if you're enslaved to money, you doesn't have a hold on you. So later on, so with that, we're gonna unpack it a little bit more. So today we're gonna continue with our Kingdom Wealth Stewardship series, right? So Kingdom Loyalty, as Jesus used the same text. We're gonna look here. It's interesting, is that Jesus used the same text, the Matthew 6:24, in the Gospel of Luke. You know, he mentioned that you cannot serve two masters. Later on, we will actually, tonight it's gonna be different. We're gonna look at kind of like a topical approach to this, but somehow connected as for us to see and value about kingdom loyalty, to have that kingdom perspective, right? So we will see kingdom loyalty as Jesus used the same text. Later on, we'll also look at other texts. So we'll see here in Luke 16, but this was in a different setting, all right? So if you could post that, Luke 16:13, if you could read that. It's interesting. Jesus actually used the same text, but this is in a different setting. This is not in the Sermon on the Mount already. It says here, no one can serve two masters. It's familiar. Yeah. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other, right? So you cannot serve both God and money. Right. Wow, interesting. Right? It's interesting. He used the same thing. So before that, I'm gonna just go ahead and read Christia, or what did he say? Oh, his one takeaway, her one takeaway, I think. Money is a great tool and servant, but a bad master. Yes, I agree. Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right. So going back to our text, right? Luke 16:13. This was actually Jesus was actually teaching his disciples, and the Pharisees were there listening to him when he was mentioning that. This was actually specifically he just mentioned before the text on verse 13. This was actually being talked about the parable of the shrewd manager, right? So with that text, we'd like to answer three things here, right? So how can you stay loyal to serving God and not money? Because before we discussed about being kingdom loyalty, being devoted to the master, right? So as I was preparing this, I was like, what are the things that you can apply, and how can you really serve God and not money, right? So we are gonna look at three things. Okay, so with that, first point is that do not love the things of this world, right? Do not love the things of this world. So it says there in verse 13, right? Luke 16:13. Either you will hate the one and love the other. So what does it mean to love the things of the world? Do not, right? It says here, do not love the things of the world. What does that mean?
Well, it could mean many things. It could be loving the pleasures of the world, and for most people, for some people, it could be things that are related to money. It could be experiences, right? For me, if it's of the world, then it doesn't glorify God. So for me, it's any experience that does not, it at its very core does not bring glory to God. So it does not bring glory. So it could be like shopping, but with a bad intent, like for Black Friday. No, I'm not saying shopping is bad, because I might go shopping this weekend. but if that's what drives you, and that's the sole thing that gives you happiness, then you're in trouble. So
good thing. And of course, do not love the things of this world, right? So do not be too attached to it. Is what it is. Do not when you look at the things that you have, that it doesn't have a hold on you.
Yes.
It doesn't have a hold on you more than God. Right? So it's like when you say you do not love the things of the world, your time is a lot. It's like, so if you are focused on that, so that means like your time is allotted in how to earn. Right? So okay, the things that you will think of is like when you wake up in the morning. So okay, how can I earn this? Right? So that means that you love the things of this world. Right? I'm not saying it's wrong, right? So I'm not. So but it's a hard check, right? So it shouldn't have a hold on you. Sometimes you have to make a pause, like especially nowadays, like sometimes people, if you already calculate the things, the number of work hours that you will, if I do this, if I work this X amount of hours, then I can achieve this thing that I am pursuing, right? So that sometimes it would consume you so much, right? So on what to get and when and how you will earn it, right? So planning, and then of course with that you already plan on how to spend it and when you earn it. So those things, I'm not saying it's wrong, right? So it's a hard check. Like do not be too much. It's like your focus is too much on that one.
Yeah. And I was just reminded. I read somewhere that if you the way for you to tell if something does not have a hold on you is that you actually hold things with an open hand. So like holding sand, right? If you grasp, if you're on the beach, you grab sand and you grasp it really tightly, it's gonna fall off. And if you hold it too loosely, it's still gonna fall off. But if you just hold it lightly, then it's gonna stay there. So I was just reminded of that when you mentioned that it shouldn't take a hold of you. So whether it's money, it's career, it's even your families, if you hold them, with an open hand, then that means you're letting God, do His thing and really take care of you.
And sometimes, when we look at the physical things that we have, right? So the material possessions that you have now, sometimes that you think that is your identity. That is what defines. It's like, this is me. That's why I need to pursue this. And this is my title. This is because I'm the head of this company. Because I'm doing this. That is not like. And then you are focused on that more than God, right? So that's why as we go back with this text, so Jesus was actually teaching His disciples not to love the things of this world. The earlier text He was mentioning to His disciples how to be shrewd. How to be that's shrewd here, of course, it's kind of it's negative. No, it's on this context it is it, right? To use the things of this world to be used for eternal gain, right? We should use the things that we have to use for eternal gain. And then on the following text, we can see that Jesus actually commented on the Pharisees who love money. He was actually it's actually amazing how Jesus responds to different audiences, right? But this one of the Pharisees, you can see here in Luke 16:14-15, it says here, the Pharisees, look at that, who
loved money,
right? So the Pharisees who loved money heard all this, like the parable of the shrewd manager, and they were sneering at Jesus. He said to them, "You are the ones who justify in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts," right? What people value highly is detestable in God's sight. Wow.
Very direct,
very
straight to the point.
Those are the people who love money more than God, right? So Jesus rebuked the Pharisees who love money. While, of course, having money is not bad, but loving money above God is detestable in the sight of the Lord.
Wow.
Look at that text. It is so, when if I look in different versions, it's just so that puts so much. The adjective is so. It's so much.
It's extreme. It's not just hate. It's detestable in God's.
Love the things of the world, right? More than God, right? It would be detestable in the sight of God. Wow. So.
Okay,
ouch. Right. So
this is a great reminder for us as people prepare for their plans for Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Yeah, because sometimes I think I wrote it there later on, so we will look at it. So, but it is a hard check, right? So we can actually see here in 1 John 2:15-17, right? This is interesting. So do not love the world. This is very direct. Or anything in the world, right? If anyone loves the world, love the Father is not in them. So verse 16, for everything in the world. So this is what when you look at, what does the world mean? So the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, those are the things, right? So that the world brings, right? Comes not to the Father, but from the world, right? So the world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. So again, you go back to the first point. How do you know, right? So how can you stay loyal to serving God and not money? Do not love the things of this world. Do not love. So right. So, as I reflect on that, I'm thinking like nobody would say and admit to others that you don't love.
Yes.
Nobody would admit that to love the things. It's between you and God. But God knows.
Yeah. Only God can see through our hearts and really tell what we value the most.
Exactly. So let's say, okay, doesn't apply to me, right? So maybe as you listen to this, you say, I'm not that. I'm doing the things of God also, right? So but when you do that, but does your actions back up your claim, right? But what is your heart telling you? Right? Maybe you could project. You could be a professional Christian. Like all the right words to say. And you know how to act.
All of the verses.
Yeah.
Yes.
But does it really? Do you when it's between you and God in your credit card? How do you use it? Right. So where do you spend most of your time? Right. The things of God or the world. The way you live your life will reflect how you truly live.
That's true.
You go check at what do you call that? The history of your, every month you will receive a bank statement.
Your transactions.
Sometimes it's a heart check, right? So it would reflect on how you live, right? So when sometimes our heart check would be when all you can think of on how you can earn more to acquire the things that you want, to earn that extra, right? Sacrificing your time with God. When God is telling you, it's time to rest. It's time for you to rest, right? So you're overworking.
Or if you feel like you don't want to lose the potential income for one day, so you'd rather just work for that day instead of going to church for a few hours, right? Because you feel like I'm gonna lose X amount of dollars every week, and so that's it. It may be the reality for some because we need money to survive, right?
Yes.
And we have families, but if it's what drives you, consumes you, it's what you think about every day. When you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about money or how to produce more money, then
for sure. And let's go ahead and look. Pastor Robert John, good evening. Good evening to you. Where are you joining us from? San Diego. All right. So another point that we can learn on how we can stay loyal and devoted to serving God and money, right? So number 2 would be do not place your confidence in what you possess.
Yeah.
So let me say that again. So do not place your confidence in what you possess.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? Right? Let's go ahead and look at 1 Timothy 6:17-19. It says here, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God. Right? So do not place your confidence in what you possess, but put your hope in God. Right? So who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Right? So I'm going to go back with this later on. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, verse 18, be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves. It's very similar to the Sermon on the Mount, right? So, as a firm foundation for the coming of age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life, right? So, of course, this was Apostle Paul, right? he wrote this in 1 Timothy, don't put your trust and hope in your possessions. Don't put your hope, because it is unreliable, right? So, but put your hope in God.
Yeah.
So, do not put your hope. So the question is, what does it mean, right? Do not put your hope in wealth versus placing your hope in God, right? So hope is, what does that mean? So hope is to trust in, to wait for, to look for, or to desire something or someone, to expect something beneficial in the future. So that's why Paul is reminding his readers also, if you have possession, make sure, this is another point, right, in verse 18, to make sure to be rich in doing good deeds, to share what you have, right?
So being faithful with what God is giving you as well.
Yeah, that's if you know that you put your hope in God, and then the application would be you also being generous in your giving, right? So the things we have are, temporal things, right? So while investing for your future is important, it is uncertain, as anything can happen. True enough, like if I would reflect and look back, like who would have thought like 3 years ago that there would be COVID,
the COVID pandemic,
yes, right? So everything shut down.
Yeah.
Right. So
a lot of businesses closed.
Yeah. So the world's economy is uncertain, right? But God's economy, when you look at God's economy, there's abundance.
Yes.
When you look at God's economy, there's stability.
Right.
But very few rely on God's economy. I mean, I would say like, but the initial, when something, as a mere humans, right? The initial thing would happen if there's a need, you put your hope in yourself. You look at if there's a certain situation, there's a financial decision that you need to make. You automatically need, like, you look at your, oh no, there would be a deduction on the things that I have. Instead of putting your hope in God, the initial reaction would be to awe and wonder, right? So the question, do you use your possessions to lay treasures for eternal gain? So are you faithful in giving to the Lord and helping the people in need and be a blessing to others? And so where do you put your trust and hope in? So if you want to stay loyal in serving God and not money, put your hope in God and not your possessions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is difficult for, if of course when you live here on earth, the world tells us that you will find stability, security when you have material possessions, right? That, I have a house, I have a car, there's value in this. So if something happens, then I can sell my possessions. I have something to. I remember Pastor Ariel mentioned that, as a parent, it's his goal, and us as parents as well, it's our goal to, when we leave the earth, we have something that we would leave for our children, so that they're not empty-handed, right? And for me, it's like having possessions gives me security, thinking that, my kids will be okay if something happens to me. But then this gives us another heart check. It reminds us that we shouldn't put our hope in what we have, but put our trust in God and our hope in God, because these material possessions, like what you said, we can lose them in an instant. Or the value, like that Pastor Ariel mentioned, the economic value, right? Like, for example, the value of a stock could be really high right now, but then who knows, something happens in the stock market and then its value diminishes, or real estate, everything. It's just, it's only God that's stable and secure, that we can really trust.
I feel like the more that you acquire, the more comfortable you feel that you have. If you have this before, you only had 4 digits in your bank account. Now that you have more than 4, now that you have a 10-digit in your bank account. Wow, give that to the building fund company.
If you
do in your heart. So now the question, right? The thing that's the truth. If you have more, you feel more secure.
Right?
And there's something wrong.
What if it becomes negative? Then you don't feel secure, right?
What if it's maintaining balance?
Yes.
Where do you put your hope in, right? So now you put your hope in God, right? So the things that we have are temporal things, right? So do not use. So where do you put your trust and hope in, right? That's just a reminder, right? So now when you put that in practice, when you apply that, money doesn't have a hold on you. When you apply that, right? It would be easier to give. Sometimes it's hard to give because you feel like, oh, I worked hard for it. Oh,
I deserve this.
Oh, I deserve it. Oh, I don't want to be faithful in my giving because I will give to my family abroad, right? Family in the Philippines. That would be my giving. But no, are you faithful to God first, right? So that's it, right? So if you want to serve God and you know that you want to be loyal to Him as Him being your master, you should not place your confidence on what you have, on what you possess, right? So that is the second point. Okay, so you guys are free to chime in if you want. But as you are processing this, I don't know if you're driving or you're cooking, you're eating. If you are driving,
please don't text the message if you're driving.
Yeah, so.
But we do want to hear from you. We want to know if anything is resonating, what your thoughts are. We would love to hear from you. So please share your comments.
Yeah. So with that, the final point on what we can learn on how you can stay loyal to serving God and not money is be content with what you have. So of course, do not place your confidence in what you possess, and lastly, be content with what you have. Right? So it says there in Ecclesiastes 5:10, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. Right? So be content with what you have. Right? So the author, possibly Solomon, the wisest king who had ever lived, encouraged us in this text that we are to be reminded that striving after the world's wealth is not only vanity because it does not satisfy us. You will never be content. Right? So when you attain your goal in your target, you get your what you're praying for, the new house or new car,
or that position in your career that you've been wanting.
You had your dream vacation, dream destination, right? So where's next? Which state are we gonna visit next? Where after Japan? Sorry, I just saw.
After Japan,
what's next?
Korea.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna be truly satisfied because you're always gonna be wanting.
Although I have to say, we're not against.
Yes, we also want to go to Japan.
And the other places.
And the other places, yes.
So promotion when you when you attain your goal, you know, and like even that's a small thing, like maybe a new phone, right? So you would want to get after 2 years, you won't be content with that. You want the latest phone, right? Because the camera is better.
Because Apple said it's better.
because it has more storage.
Because you need a new phone. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not right. So the reality is, if you want to acquire the next one, right? So what's next? What's next? Okay, so get a little. I remember Pastor Ariel mentioned this, right? So just a little bit more. Remember that? Just a little bit more. It's not. And but the truth is, there would be no satisfaction. Right?
You're forever gonna say that. Just a little bit more. Just a few more.
A few more. Yes. Exactly. So there would be no satisfaction. You'd be envious about the other people who has more. Right? So if you're satisfied with the blessings that the Lord has given you, you will be wise on how you manage your time, your wealth, and possessions. Right? So you will be loyal to serving God as your master and not money. So it doesn't have a hold on you, and of course you are content with what you have. So question, are you content? As you pause and reflect, right? Are you content with what you have? Or are you mad at
Ask
God?
them. What do you think?
As you reflect, as you are eating dinner while listening to us or preparing your dinner, right? Are you content? Are you satisfied, right? So with the blessings of the Lord has given you. So example, do you find joy, right? And satisfaction with the current blessings that the Lord has given you, right? So how do you respond or react when people around you receive a blessing?
Do you get envious or like, Lord, how come he got that and I didn't?
Yeah, how come you haven't explored?
How come this person has a Tesla? He doesn't deserve it.
Oh, right? He doesn't deserve it. Yeah.
Well, I've been praying so hard.
Yeah. So
right?
do you celebrate with them wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, when you look, somebody from church got a new heart. It's like, oh yeah. So, or do you feel envious, or displeasure, right? So, be content with what you have, right? So, the challenge, not on the other side of it, it's like, sometimes, like sometimes you have an extra, there's a certain urge that you have to spend it. So challenge yourself, like how often, as you reflect now, right? So how often do you shop? Now with the holidays approaching, right? So how often are you on your online app, right? On purchasing?
How many things do you have in your cart? How often do you click add to cart?
Ouch. Right. Yeah, I would send it. I don't have the Prime, right? So use my Prime. So
yeah, he sent it to me and I click add to cart.
Yeah. Now with the holidays approaching, right? A time when there is a season of sale, do you have an urge to purchase every time you have an extra cash?
Or even, sometimes you don't even have extra, but because you see in bold letters, sale. Oh, I have to buy this because it's on sale. 2 days later, it's gonna go back to the regular price. So it becomes an excuse then that, I have to buy this because after 2 days, the opportunity has missed us, right?
Yes.
So sometimes that becomes an excuse, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I think, or only for me, no.
I mean, they're silent. They're like,
no,
I said,
they're silent. Nobody's.
So where is
can you relate?
You ask them, where is the best sale right now? And they will respond, right? So like, where is the good deal, right? So do you live in? Nobody would admit it, but as you pause and reflect, like, how's your lifestyle? So. Every time there's an opportunity to give to God's kingdom, do you give?
Right.
Do you give? Like for real?
Or do you give with an open heart? Or is it, do you give because you're expected to, people are watching and you have to give? Or because, how do you give out of the abundance of your heart? Are you a cheerful giver? That's like the things, those are the things that are coming to me right now.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the things that you have to, if you reflect on your lives, right? How is your? We're not gonna ask you to raise your hands. That's me. Like, how's your lifestyle, and do you live in debt?
Do you live beneath your means, beyond your means, right?
Yeah, do you live within your means or beyond your means, right? So it's a sign that if you are in debt right now, right? So it's a sign that you are serving money. Money is your master. It has a hold on you. Right? How's your credit cards? I'm not gonna say how's.
You don't need to say that.
Yeah, don't say. Please don't. Just pause and if you want to reflect and say, am I serving God or money? Yeah, go check. Right. So that's a good thing, right? Good point. Like, do you live within your means or beyond your means? Right? So as God's citizens, God's kingdom, right? So we need living in God's perspective, having God's perspective, living in His kingdom. We should not be, I would say, in debt. Right? We need to be good
stewards.
I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not calling that, but I'm just saying we need to have a heart check on how we steward all our how we store our finances. Right? So,
and I think just to add to that, I think living here in the United States, we are always encouraged to use our credit, right? When I first migrated here, it was something new to me because people expect you to have a credit score, right? And if you don't use your credit card, you won't have a credit score, which would not allow you to do other things like purchase a phone line, or get let's say basic utilities, right? They need your credit score, so they encourage us to use and swipe our credit card so that you're not a ghost, that you're actually spending. But then if it becomes more than the necessity, then that becomes the problem, because we're not being good stewards of what God has given us, and we're not being faithful to what God has given us. And I'm reminded, I was just reading about stewardship this morning. Thank you, Lord. That's why that's why I was reading. I was just reminded that when you think about everything in this world, all of our possessions, and even the people that we have relationships with, that we don't own them, and God owns everything, and we are just stewards of it. Then we're able to actually take good care of what God has given us. Like, for example, I remember reading this example really struck me, is that you have kids, right? We both have young kids, and if, say, my child, let's say my 4-year-old child Sky, I'm watching her in the playground, and she falls and then hits her knee and then gets a wound, then I'd be like, oh, you're okay, but I won't feel too bad, because I know, like, oh, she's my daughter, right?
Yeah.
She's not my possession, but she's my daughter.
Okay.
So, but if, say, somebody from our church told me, Hannah, can you watch my son for 10 minutes? And then in my watch, this kid falls on the slide and gets a concussion. How bad would I feel, right? Because not a true story. They might get scared of me watching their kids. But say,
so go to your point.
If that happened on my watch, I would feel so bad, because that's not my kid, right? And so in the same way that because I'm just a steward in that moment of that child, that child was put in my care. So in the same way that God gives us all of these things, they're not ours. It's just that God gave them to us, but we are supposed to be good stewards of. But if I remember that, oh, this phone is from God, this is God's possession, how I will not lose it, right? Or if this house that I live in is God's possession, then I will really clean more often and take good care of it. It's just like putting things in perspective. Clean more often. Okay. Oh no, I'm recorded on video. I have to clean more often. No, but see, thinking about it in that way, that everything we own, even the people, it doesn't belong to us. Yeah. And so that gives us a perspective of really being good stewards, because it's not ours, it's God's. Right? I can't imagine God being mad at me for not taking good care of something that He gave me, right?
Yeah. And as I go back, I was trying to think of something like being content with what we have, right? Sometimes as I look at this, sometimes a good thing, it's like you're fine with yourself, right? But the people around you, people that you love, like say your case, like, okay, you wanna get nice things for them.
Yeah.
So like that's why you buy those, or you wanna buy something for your relatives, the Philippines, or for your friend, for your close friend, but you do not have the means, but you don't have to purchase. You end up purchasing those. Remember, like it's like sometimes if I go to a store, like I would think of the people that I would think of are the people that I care about, right? So like, okay, they would like to eat this.
So your intentions are good. You
but the thing is, like what I'm trying to point is, like sometimes we would be in debt because of the things that we want to give to the people around us, right? So because it's out of generosity, but it's also hard check. I think like most of the people in our congregation, they are generous.
Yes.
They are generous in Victory SoCal per se, right? So but a hard check is like family. But a hard check would be they would even go the extra mile. But they are generous. But the thing is, like sometimes it would be also a hard check. Like, do you have the capacity? Do you have the means to give to them? Right? So it's a hard check. If you are doing that for God, or are you doing that
to keep up with appearances,
exactly. If you do not have the means, you want to treat people, you want to treat, those are good things.
Like in Tagalog, it's nakakahiya, di ba? If you're not able to.
Now, be content. That just be content with what you have, right? So if you do not have, it's okay. Just love the person. I love you, Seth. I love you.
Yes. So no need to buy expensive gifts.
Today we're having tapa. So those are things. Just a reminder for all of us, right? For us to be reminded about that God being, if you want to say that God is our master, that we are loyal to Him.
Right.
These three things, right? Be content with what we have. the possessions that we have, we do not place too much confidence in it, and of course, do not loving the things of the world. Those are 3 things that we can do. When you put that in practice, right? So it won't have a hold on you. So as we end, hold on, before I say, do you have any comment or anything that you guys want to share?
Yes.
They're kind of quiet right now,
Yes.
right? So, but it's
Drop in
it's
the
okay.
comments below.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to add? It's not a true story, right? But
No, not a true story.
You just thought about it.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
give an example, because for
Yeah.
me it's like it puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll give them a few more seconds to drop
exactly.
any comments.
Yeah,
or
we're transitioning now. So
Yes.
as we end and shift to our prayer time, let's remember that we can stay loyal to serving God as our master when we don't focus on the things of the world, not rely on the possessions, and being content with what we have, right? So